Welcome to The Gut Check, Nutrition and Gut Health for Active People, a podcast where we are talking functional nutrition for functional fitness and a functional you. Remember, if your gut is not functioning optimally, you are not functioning optimally. I am your host, registered dietitian and nutritionist, and OCR fan, Kate Klein. You can connect with me on Facebook at The Dublin Dietitian, or go to my website for additional resources, services, and the video recorded versions of these episodes at www.dublindietitian.com. That's DUBLINDIETITIAN. As a standard disclaimer, the information provided here is for educational purposes only. While I strive to provide accurate and helpful information to my listeners and viewers, I cannot take into account individualized circumstances. This is not a substitute for personalized nutrition, health, and medical advice from a health professional. If you are ready to get your personalized plan, you can go to dublindietitian.com and schedule a complimentary strategy session to get a game plan in place for you to hit your health and fitness goals. So let's get to it. Happy New Year and welcome to, I guess we'll call it season 2 now. I'm just going to go with that. 2022, season 2 of The Gut Check. I'm really excited about this episode, kicking off the new year, trying to jump on the momentum of New Year's resolutions. But I want it to go further than that. There are plenty of people who hate setting New Year's resolutions, who don't care what time of year it is. Like when you set a goal, you set a goal. Now, I'm interviewing Ashley Tryban in this episode, and she is hugely passionate about goal setting, specifically about helping other people set goals to meet them, to reach their potential, to live the life that they want to live. She has such a passion. She loves New Year's, so I thought she'd be a perfect fit for getting the momentum rolling. So whatever your goals are, whatever your timeline is, whenever you are listening to this podcast, I hope you get some good tools out of it. We do cover a lot of ground talking about what goals should be, how to take time, maybe ways to rate it. But I want you to understand there are a lot of tools that we're presenting, but you're going to have to kind of find what's right for you. Like everything I talk about, you want to personalize it and kind of fit it into what's right for you. If you remember my wheel of health, we also talk a lot about mindset because that is the hub, that is the start of it. And around the edge, we hit on accountability. So what that means here is whether you're going to be accountable to yourself, whether you need to pay a coach to be accountable, whether you need to find a group of friends to keep you accountable, join a class, whatever it is. Those are probably two of the cores. One, the right mindset, and two, making sure you've got something that's going to help you stay accountable until the discipline and routine sets in. So I would love to hear what your goals are for the year, presented in a way she talks about, or however they work for you. What do you want to accomplish this year? Financial goals, physical goals, fitness goals, weight goals, health exploration, whatever it is. I'd love to hear it. So hit the link, hop on Facebook, and share what that is for you. So welcome to this episode. I am really excited to have you here, Ashley. Ashley and I connected a couple years ago, actually in a yoga class was where we met and had kind of this instant connection of ambition and goals and health and wellness passions. And we helped each other create some programs for work. And actually, Ashley, in a way, I have you to thank as being a catalyst for my main flagship program, the Empowered Healing Program. So yes, you helped push that because you are such a powerhouse of goals and inspiration. So I'd love to have you tell a little bit about yourself, some of the things you're working on, what you do, and we're going to do a deep dive into goal setting here for the new year.
Well, Kate, I'm so excited because, this is my favorite time of year. I'm a total goal geek. Love setting goals. So really excited to talk about this topic. Yes, Kate, the yoga class that I met you in, I remember I was behind this girl. All right, visualize this, team. We are in a yoga studio. It's full. I don't know anyone, right? I newly moved to the city, didn't know anyone.
So did I was also solo.
And I'm in this class and we're doing this yogi squat. And I swear the teacher left us in this yogi squat forever. And my legs are burning. I'm about to come out of this yogi squat. And here's this girl in front of me with these strong legs, tall. And she's just in this perfect, peaceful yogi squat. And I just keep channeling her. as my spirit animal. I'm like, okay, she can do it. I can do it. She can do it. I can do it. And after class, because
For the
she was so
record, I was in
inspirational,
pain. I was just breathing through it.
I also could only see your backside, not your face. So that might have helped. But anyways, after class, I had to tell her, and that's how we started talking. So I think that's a big takeaway. If you take away nothing else, when you see greatness, acknowledge it.
I love it. Yeah. You never know what kind of friendship is going to flourish from that.
Right. And after that, Kate, we worked on some different projects. Kate's more into nutrition. I'm more into health coaching, and actually was able to create a coaching program for the company that I worked with at the time. Originally, it started as a face-to-face program. We took it virtual when COVID happened, and it was just perfect timing to be able to continue to help people during that time when they needed it so much. And yeah, I worked through my career with my company then for about 10 years, and I just newly got a new career, new job this year. So that's been really exciting. Again, building something from the ground, creating health coaching programs, training coaches on how to work with behavior change and work with their clients to the best of their capabilities, and to make as many goals out there happen. That is the goal.
Yeah. So your goal is to make goals for others and make them real.
Goals.
Now, and with that, you do a lot of like motivational interviewing style, like guiding people. You're less about do this, do that, and you really help people sort of embrace their own motivations and priorities and realize what's important to them when we sometimes forget, right? It's kind of
I think you nailed it, Kate, in that our world just moves so fast right now. Everyone listening to this, you know that things just come at you fast, things resolve fast, there's new things, and there's this and that. And so health coaching, one of the biggest things, and one of the things I love the most, is that coming back, sitting at the table and just sitting in it, being quiet, letting the world do its thing, and you get to be here and now. And then asking yourself, what do you really want? Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And then step by step, how do we get there?
And that's really interesting. You mentioned that being quiet and sitting there, because I was just talking with someone yesterday who basically runs. She does not consider it running ragged. She says it's just who she is and how she's always been, but she will work till essentially 10:30 p.m. And then she'll have 10:30 to 11. Like, so it's work, it's housekeeping, it's being a mom, like all of that. And I was like, do you like that? Or do you wish you could just kind of sit down and have a hobby? And she goes, I don't think I can sit still. I don't know that I would know what to do with myself. So any tips for people who I want to dive into more about goals and all of that, but since you brought it up, that kind of made me think of people who struggle to even take the time to try to sit down and make that plan and that realization and that kind of self-exploration.
Yeah, so I know people on both ends of the spectrum. I know people that are busybodies like me, and I also know people who are just very mindful and present. And those very mindful, present people, they might sit down every morning and do their to-do list and structure their day and do these type of things. Now, someone like me, like we're everywhere. So not only, it's like meditation, it's a skill that you have to build, but it's also how important is it to you? So in a helpful way, especially for parents, I've found, is to think about their kids. If you just let the kid do whatever they want at nighttime, they're running around, they're eating candy, they're, jumping on the bed, doing whatever, they're eventually going to pass out probably by midnight, right? But how is that next morning going to go? How is that morning going to go when you wake them up for school? They're probably not going to be too receptive to anything you have to say, any kind of structure. They're probably going to be tired and miserable, headache, everything else. So instead, if that morning's really important, if it's really important for that kid to go to school and to have a great day and to make the most of their time, we need to put that focus on the back end. We need to spend that prep time with the bedtime routine. And eventually the bedtime routine just becomes normal, right?
Mhm.
So it becomes less work, but we have to put the work in up front. And if we don't put that work in, then the other things don't happen. And if you want those things to happen, we have to put the upfront time in. And so for someone like me, that is literally, me putting it on the calendar, setting up time, making sure that I am, at the desk with this notebook at this time, set a timer for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever I have time for. And it is making sure I come out with something productive.
Mhm.
And so for your busybody person, that is what I would recommend. But ultimately you have to prioritize it.
So
Has to be a big enough
ultimately
why.
assess, what do even if it's just like 30 seconds, like, is this what I want? Yes. Okay. Now figure out how to make it fit my schedule and find a time and make an appointment with myself that I commit to.
Yes. And I think that's, leading into one of the other things we've talked about, Kate, is the biggest mistakes people make with goal setting
That is
is
one of my
that
questions. Yes.
they just don't prioritize the time to set up what's important to them.
Mhm.
And if I asked you today, Kate, just no prep, no nothing, what's your goal for 2020 or 2022? There we go. you would
What
you
year
would
are we in?
yeah, what year are we in? You would spit back at me, the first thing that came to your mind because you're trying to make me happy, right?
I could see
So the
that.
problem,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
totally that. Lose weight.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Improve my business.
Okay, so then we get into it a week. We get into it 2 weeks of that diet plan or of that focus or of that whatever. And you're like, man, I just told Ashley that to get her off my back. I don't really care. I don't really want to lose weight. I really don't. I don't want to be on this diet. Like, well, when things get hard, we have to go back to our why. And if the why is not there, if it's not ground in our essence, what we want to be and what we want to do, our best self, if it doesn't equal that, it's not a why, and we're going to fail. So that prep time is so important.
So I guess let's kind of step this back to goals in the first thing, because I think there's a lot of abstract ideas about what does it mean to set a goal. So do you feel like there are more and less effective ways to set goals? People might have heard the term like SMART goals. Do you encourage that? How would you divide those long and short term, like coming up with those steps? So I guess, yeah, if you have someone you're like, well, let's set goals, what's kind of step one to how to set some goals?
I love that you put it that way, because you'll hear people out there, and you'll hear even health coaches. There is this one structured way, this one proven way to do things. And we know that that's not true. We know that the human brain is so dynamic. In neuroplasticity, it's ever changing. We also know that people learn at different rates, speeds, in different ways. So for one, I'm very auditory. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to do these different things. And I love to absorb information that way. But if I go to, maybe one of my sisters, they're very visual. So, if it's an audiobook, they're like, no, I want to feel the pages. I want to, look at the pictures. I want to do these things. So we know that people learn differently. So when I say goal setting, I mean, that really is a family in itself. I like to tell people that there's the habits that we continually do, and those habits help us to get to the finish line of a goal. And then those goals, as we rack them up and as we solidify those habits, they eventually become, autopilot for us. They become a lifestyle. So that's basically what we're after in the long run, is a healthier lifestyle. Also, self-improvement falls into the same category as lifestyle. We're not trying to self-improve ourselves for this 1 year or this one day or for this one occasion. We're trying to do it for the long haul. So that's when we talk about lifestyle. So thinking about a goal, I want to run a 5K. Now, where SMART comes in, when do you want to run that 5K? How do we run that 5K? What do we have to do to get there? Is it realistic? Do I even run right now? Can I do it in a month? All of these different things. So yes, I like the format of SMART because it makes us more accountable. We are cheaters a lot of the times. We will try to finagle and find that
Oh
shortcut
yeah.
wherever
Oh,
we
we'll
can.
justify the heck out of anything to get out of something that makes us uncomfortable. We forget the
Exactly.
sacrifice that goal setting can force.
So if we make it smart, if we have to show up, that's why we talked about that, putting it on your calendar, that appointment with yourself. Trying not to get out of it, but instead, what can we put into it to get what we want out of it? And that's where that SMART acronym comes in. So I do suggest if you have a finish line goal.
Can you define that for people who might not be familiar with the SMART outline, the SMART?
So let's go back to my goal. So I tell Kate, I want to do a 5K. Oh my gosh, so-and-so did 3 5Ks last year. I want to do a 5K in 2022. That's what I want to do. And then Kate might ask me, well, can we make that more specific, that S for SMART? I want to do the hot chocolate 5K. I've always wanted to do that race. They get this cool medal. That's the one I want to do. Okay.
Perfect. We have
that's in November.
Race, a specific number. And in a way, a 5K is, as opposed to someone who goes, I want to run more. So that's another way that can be that specific number.
Also, you just mentioned got into measurable.
I snuck it in. I didn't even mean to, but we just morphed into the M.
So the M for SMART, measurable. So a 5K, it's very measurable. 3.1 miles, 5 kilometers. Okay. So now A, action oriented. Is it getting me moving? Is it I'm going to sit on the couch and be a blob? That's really not a goal. That's really not something that's going to improve me. That's not something that's going to motivate me. But it's action oriented. I'm going to run this 5K. I get excited even when I say that. So now R, realistic. Have I ever run before? How far can I run right now? The hot chocolate is in November. Can I be in that condition by then? Can I stick to a training regimen? Yes, I can. It's realistic. And the last T for SMART, timely. And so to make a deadline on it. If I just say I want to run a 5K, I've got till the day I'm in the ground to say, oh, got to get to that 5K.
I didn't say when, it's fine.
Instead, we have that timeline of November. I think this year it was the 21st. So by November 21st, I will run a 5K. Timely, or it's specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. So having that will definitely help you. Like you mentioned, Kate, you said, I want to run more. Those are the most dangerous goals because you really can't give yourself that badge of success. When I finish that 5K, I'm going to take that medal. I'm going to do the little finisher picture with me biting the medal, all of that stuff. I'm going to post it all over social media. I will have the fulfillment that I trained hard and that I got to my goal. That person who says they want to run more than what? Do they know where they are now? Do they know how many miles per week they run now? Do they know how many miles per week they want to run? Will they even know their times if they got faster or better? What was the goal? And so it's hard to reward yourself if you don't know. If you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And I think that is something that can be very important for them to do, one, for themselves, but two, if you are struggling with figuring out certain things, where having a coach can be helpful. I've had people set just weekly goals of eat more vegetables. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know, just more. Okay, what does that mean? Or drink more water. Well, did you drink more water? I didn't actually count what I was drinking. I think so. So I've had things like that, or I've had, and this is within the work I do, one of the common things, since I work with kind of more of the things aren't working right despite trying to be healthy. So I get people who are afraid to set a weight loss goal because they're afraid to fail. So they'll tell me, I want to lose weight. Okay, do you have a goal weight, a percent body fat or a mile marker? I'm afraid to set it because then if I don't hit it, I'm going to get upset. So for me, usually what I do then is well, let's ignore that then and let's talk about the habits that you want to make goals. So is that something that you would also do with people who kind of are hesitant or struggling to define a goal?
Yeah. So, one, with weight loss, the hard thing is, what's the why? And I know, Kate, you know about the 5 whys. So if Kate says she wants to lose 10 pounds, that's the goal. I might ask her why. Kate, why do you want to lose 10 pounds?
To feel better.
To feel better. Okay, why would that make you feel better and more confident?
Well, then I'll feel at home in my own body and I can wear the clothes that I like.
Okay, so wearing the clothes that you like, why would that make you feel more like Kate, more like your best self?
So doing the dig is here. And I think people have trouble asking themselves that why. And I think I love that you actually bring that up now. And I hope anyone listening will sit down and ask themselves why. I work on that medical side of what's the root cause, like what's the why that you can't lose weight, or why don't you have the energy, like what's going on a bio level. But when it comes to motivation, I think people struggle to find that root cause of why they're motivated. And a lot of people do just say, I just want to lose weight because.
Mm-hmm. In weight loss, that's why it is kind of a dangerous goal. I think of goal setting, habit formation, lifestyle building. Think of it like an onion with all of its layers. When we set a weight loss goal, we're on the very top layer. We're kind of, it feels shallow, right? You're right on top. But as soon as you start digging into those whys, or you get more comfortable with your coach, or you start being more mindful in your own body, you start to dig onto, hey, ultimately I'm awesome and I want the world to see how awesome I am. I want to be more confident so that I can project the energy that, I want to see in the world. And I want the idea of abundance, that I can be able to gain what I need to sustain myself. And like, it ultimately gets down to your needs, your what, how, all of these things, your essence, basically. So much more than weight. What if we summed our kids up? What if we took all the children in the world and we're like, okay, you're 90 pounds, you're this, and it's their weight was how we valued them. We would never do that, right? That sounds horrible saying it. Why do we do that to ourselves?
So many reasons, but yeah, something. I love that people can find deeper things. And I think on kind of a broad level, I know a lot of people will, it's almost like their weight is their identity, and their weight is also their armor. So I know we're getting into this. I don't want to get totally just into weight loss as a goal. There's so many different goals that can be out there. So I'm getting a little off topic, but I love that idea of, digging down to the why. Why is this important? Whether that's losing weight, or setting an exercise goal, or a business goal, or a financial goal, or some other health goal. But I do usually tell people, like, your weight's actually a symptom of what's going on inside.
100%.
Whether that's emotional issues going on inside, or physical hormonal issues going on inside, or GI microbiome issues going on inside. But that it's like I use weight when appropriate as a mile marker, just to help us measure. But that most people find the weight loss happens when they start addressing other things, trying to get better sleep, trying to be mindful, trying to move more, trying to heal.
You nailed it. So when you asked about, the person who's afraid to set a goal because they'll fail, they're afraid of failure. The whole idea that to then say, okay, maybe finishing that 5K or losing 10 pounds, those are really scary, big final things. And they're very measurable. So we can tell if you got there, if you got 50% of the way there, or if you didn't get there at all, we can tell. So if that's something that, feels demoralizing, feels like you're losing confidence or autonomy with it, let's focus on the habits. What would be the habits that would get you to that 10-pound weight loss? What are the habits that would get you to that 5K? And are those things that you're willing to set a focus around? That idea of timely in the SMART acronym, that's something I like to fall back on too. So if someone is, nervous or scared to put that final, say so out there, instead to say, what could you do this week? If drinking more water is your goal, What would it take to drink 1 glass of water each day over the next 5 days before we meet again? Something that, maybe that's something that we could get commitment on. And the whole idea in the long haul, the lifestyle, that we're after is mastery. We want to ultimately get to a place where when Kate says she's going to do something, she shows up and she gets it done. There's nothing worse when we give up on ourselves or we don't show up for other people. It hurts our character, it hurts our relationships, but it hurts this relationship, with ourselves the most, I think, when we don't show up. And so mastery, set the goal as small as we need to get it. If somebody's trying to move more, what's 100 steps more today? You're getting 5,000 steps now. Can we get 5,100 today? And if we check that box, awesome. Maybe tomorrow we make a 2-day goal. Maybe the next day we make a week-long goal. Maybe eventually we're up to 2-week goals. And again, you're only held accountable for that time frame. You don't have to walk another 100 steps every day for the rest of your life. Okay, that's scary. That's daunting. But instead, if we just say today by midnight, and we can check that box, the more times we can check the box, the easier it gets, the more we show up, and eventually we don't need to make the goal at all anymore. We just do it. It's who we are.
Love it. So how important do you feel goal setting is for people?
It's so interesting because I've talked to so many people, and there are people out there who they don't like goal setting. They don't like New Year's. They don't get excited about it like I do. And I have to be okay with that. Again, that's the beauty of this world, is the beauty of humanity, is that we have different skills. We have different ways that we operate. And I can tell you, if you've ever been part of a company or a team, you hope that everybody is a little bit different. Because if they all have the same exact skill set, you are in trouble. If I had to work with 20 other me's, we would be in big trouble. So instead, each person brings those gifts and those different approaches to things. So I would say that there's people out there who will set finish line goals, like I just said with the 5K or the lose 10 pounds. By this date, I will. There's people who set habit goals. So, for 2022, every Monday morning when I wake up, I'm going to drink a full glass of water to start my day. And you know what? The funny thing is, sometimes we set that Monday goal and sometimes it trickles into Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. And then there's people out there who set what's called a theme. So for the year of 2022, my theme is abundance. My theme is that I am going to give and get without feeling scarcity, without feeling fear of not getting things back. I'm going to give freely, things like that. So you could set a theme, you could go with that habit route, or you could set, those finish line goals. And I can tell you that I do all three.
So Ashley, I would say you set so many goals. And I think, again, that's like, that motivates you, that inspires you, that keeps you going day to day. It seems like you've always got something that you're working on, something that you're passionate about, whether that's financial or business or personal or, social. So I'm curious, what sort of accomplishments have you had that you feel would not have happened if you hadn't taken the time to really set that SMART goal?
So like from a personality standpoint, first of all, folks, if you have not taken a strengths test, I highly, highly encourage it.
Oh, was it VIA strength?
VIA, yeah, VIA character.org, I think it is, but it's a VIA strength test. You can type that into Google.
Google it and add a link to the description. That's right.
7 minutes. Take 7 minutes, honestly answer the questions. Any other strength finder, go for it too. But you have to know what makes you tick, because ultimately you can manipulate those things to get to the goals that are really hard. So
use your strengths to get where you're going. You don't have to follow the same path everybody does if you have a better method that you're more tailored to.
Yeah, I talk to people, I'm not a super religious person, but I've talked to people who are very spiritual, and you know, their religious bones in their body, that's what guides them. And I've talked to people with nutrition, like, oh man, I wish I wasn't so addicted to bread. I eat bread all the time. Okay, well, how can we use, you know, what does your book say about nutrition? What does your book say about meals and eating and things like that? And, you know, they'll come back after thinking about it and they'll say, you know what, that was a lot easier. It was a lot easier to say no to it when it fell into my morals, ethics, and values. So for me personally, perseverance is one of my strengths, as well as appreciation of beauty and excellence. So how I can use those things to then get to goals. I'm the a first generation student in my family. So getting through my bachelor's degree, it took 5 years. I switched my major multiple times.
I'd say, you know, there's usually some major hopping that goes on.
Yeah.
Most of us.
But ultimately, perseverance won out. I was able to say, I persevere. No matter what comes into my life, I persevere. And with that as my mantra, you know, I made it through a bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and I just finished a second master's degree this year. So to be able to fall back on those strengths is really, really helpful. But easily I could have said, I want more school. I want to know more. And I would have had no way to measure it.
Yeah. And you have goals beyond just like the educational. You are also a big Pelotonia, right? That's a
Pelotonia, yeah.
Pelotonia. Is that associated with the Peloton bike brand?
No, it is not.
I didn't. Okay.
No. So Pelotonia is it's a nonprofit. It's a grassroots organization here in the Columbus, Ohio area through Ohio State University. But it is basically a bike ride yearly. I rode 9 years now. This will be my 10th. But I've ridden the 100-mile ride and raised money for cancer research. They take the money that the riders raise, 100% of it, and bundle it into these grants for scientists to then be funded to do research in oncology. So it's something that has been near and dear to me. I've lost way too many family members to cancer. And it also falls back into how I take care of myself and my own philosophy on fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, ultimately. So to find something that resonates with me so much and something I'm so passionate about is really fulfilling. And so that's another area of social, I guess it would be social, kind of environmental health as well. But finding something that speaks to you and finding something bigger than yourself to believe in and to invest in.
And that, yeah. And so that helped give you your why. Because I remember Ashley would post on Facebook when this race was coming up that she wanted the names of people, of her friends and family that like, for example, I gave her my aunt's name who had passed away from cancer because you markered those on your legs, right? Yeah. So that was kind of her driving passion to keep her in this intensive training for these, 100-mile race. And to get you through that day. And so again, like we talked about from the beginning here, is tapping into that why, like what is really going to drive you? What's really going to motivate you? A lot of the moms I worked with when we'd first start, they were a little leery about this idea of going on a diet till we reframed that as you're leading a healthy life as an example for your kids. Like that is the why. So your children can have a healthy life as well. So they can be inspired to not be in pain, to not have as many health issues down the road, to not have these addictions to have to break when we're older and it's so much harder. So, whatever that why is, whether it's a cause or family or an event that you want to train for, or a financial milestone you want to break through for a trip you want, or a car, or whatever. But to me, yeah, finding that why, and I actually made like a Canva picture with some of the things that I wanted. And every day, like I have that on my separate monitor. I have a second monitor because that helps remind me why I'm pushing out of my comfort zone and trying to help people. I want it to be a win-win. I want it to be a viable career for me while changing people's lives. And so, yeah, that's my why.
Like putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Hardcore introvert. It's very hard for me.
I see you, Kate. I see you.
But I would love to hear some of your past clients that you worked with where maybe because you helped guide them through that goal setting and that little bit, either the baby steps or the deeper why, what did you teach them and how to coach change for them? What were some of the struggles you saw and how were they able to overcome that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things when we talk about, specific people and their journeys, how many times have you heard a story about somebody that, is an ultra marathoner or, has one leg or, all of these very specific stories out there. But ultimately, deep down, once you listen to the story, some piece of it resonates with you. And that's that going back to that human journey. And so it's interesting, I've worked with thousands of people at this point from across the US, even some global. And it's that each person wants to be seen, heard, and understood. And it's ultimately, how do we create that relationship where they feel that comfort with me? And ultimately with the space. So health coaching is very much so about the space that you're in during that session. And you hope as a coach that you can remove yourself from the space and let the person just be there. And you kind of act as the safety net. You're there if they have questions, you're there to guide, and ultimately there to help protect too, because sometimes human nature can be ugly. It can deter our progress. So
Right.
instead, showing up in those sessions, I'm hoping that I can be there and I can help with that guidance and that safety, but ultimately they are learning from themselves. And I'm learning from them too, selfishly. So it's a really interesting, powerful space to be in. So I urge anyone listening out there, I think the hardest part is asking for help. Somehow in our society, in our culture, we've deemed asking for help as a weakness. Instead of, hey team, if we have 4 hands instead of 2, we're stronger, right? If we have 2 brains instead of 1, we're stronger, right? So,
Right.
so instead of running into the same wall a million times and expecting a different result, insanity, right? Instead of doing that, how do we instead reel in the right person or a soundboard or anything just to experience something different and see if it unlocks any doors for us? And I'd say the most common things that come up out of these sessions, one is relieving that fear, is allowing people to actually be vulnerable. A lot of times, again, our culture deems that if you're vulnerable, it's a weakness. Instead, how do we take away the fear that's promoting those feelings and turn it instead into a power? Have you ever met that person, Kate, I'm sure you have on your journeys, where you've met someone who's just so sincere and so genuinely themselves that you're inspired? Or someone that can be so vulnerable, it's like endearing, you just gravitate to that person.
Yeah.
This is what we're after in coaching, is to allow those people to realize that the insecurity that they came in with is really a strength. And how do we build the confidence, obviously, for them to be more themselves? But how do we find that why? How do we dig in and make it sustainable? Sustainable inspiration, I think, is always the goal.
Oh,
That
I like
they don't,
that.
so that people don't have to be in the coaching session riding that high. Think of yoga, kind of. When you're in it, you're in the flow, maybe meditation or running, whatever it is for you, you're in that flow. How do we find that in just everyday life? So that is the goal of coaching, is that we can sustain those feelings after a session, that you no longer need me. That's the goal.
Right. Yes. To empower them, so I think I would also like to have you talk about and clarify a little, because I think something that seems to come up a lot is people will set a goal, might be smart, follow all that. It's ambitious. It's good. It's a good goal. They're really inspired. It's the new year. They're kind of jumping on the universal energy of that. But when that inspiration and that emotion fades, they struggle to have the discipline to follow through. Do you have any advice for that? Because I feel like that's something I see a lot. Like, I'm motivated, now I had a bad day, I'm going to fall off. I'm motivated, now I'm in a bad mood, I'm not going to do it. And there's a disconnect between that good energy inspiration and then kind of when life gets real and I don't have that non-emotional side secured. The emotion rules over the logic or the discipline, and you can't, doesn't matter how much you tell yourself that why, you just kind of can't rekindle that fire.
Yeah. No, I think something like 10% of New Year's resolutions actually come to fruition over the year.
Yeah.
So one, you're not alone. Again, back to that human nature. We are in this together. Any person that you tell that story to it's gonna resonate. Two, we talk about inspiration. We mentioned determination, perseverance, willpower, all of these things. Pick the one that resonates with you and grab onto that. Again, back to that mantra, I persevere, or I am determined, or I am powerful. Whatever that mantra is for you, stick with that, own it. I think what happens to us a lot of the times, we lack resiliency because we make ourselves the victims in our own lives. So, and that could be, there's so many reasons for that. It could go back to trauma. It could go back to, experiences that we've had, things that we've lived through. But ultimately, how do we own it? How do we come back and say, yeah, I don't feel like getting on the spin bike today, and I don't feel like it. And part of us could sit in that and be like, my leg hurts, blah, 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 and start to, we start to do that. We start to baby ourselves. We start to come up with excuses.
We justify it. Yeah.
We justify. Yes. So instead, how do we either say, I am rationally making the decision to honor my feelings right now because there's something to be honored there. And I am going to take a rest day. I'm going to read my book instead of spin today. So that's a conscious choice that I made in control. Very different than, I'm just going to lay on the couch because I'm just not feeling it. Oh, woe is me. I'm all alone and blah, blah, and I'm hungry and I'm just gonna gain weight anyways. And so you have the empowerment path where you make the rational decision to do something, or you take the victim path. And that is where you decide to go down that spiral. And we're all going to fall into that victim path from time to time. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Actually, I used to joke in college when I was struggling with some weight things. I would say my self-esteem was the best on a day that I wanted to eat bad food, because I'm like, my body's not that bad. I look great. It's fine. I can eat that entire pizza at once. And it was a very false self-esteem, but I would try to justify it that way. Like, I'm not that bad. It's okay. I still fit into my current clothes barely, but it's okay. But I think, and I love that you point that out, and I just want to kind of to kind of add something in with that. Yes, we all find ourselves in that sort of victim pathway. And you mentioned neuroplasticity earlier. So just to anyone listening, kind of know that while that is common for many people, it doesn't have to be that way. It is kind of a muscle memory that we have, how our self-talk goes, and you can retrain it. You can break those pathways like you would if you were working out. It's multiple reps, multiple days. You have to strengthen that muscle. You have to come back to it time and time again. You have to make a conscious effort. You might be very, very weak at it at first, but don't give up. Like, it can happen. There's a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics all about it. There's a ton of books on mindset. And I think one of the best analogies I'd heard for it was the idea of, like, when you're sledding and you get to like a new plush hill of snow and you sled down it, you make a pathway. And then if you sled down, you're going to kind of slide back into that pathway and again and again and again until that is just kind of the automatic pathway. And the more you go down that one rut, the harder it is to break out and make a new one. And that's not to say it can't, but just to kind of put that out there for people who feel trapped in their own head sometimes and trapped in this depressive spiral. I've been there. you can break out of it. We can do a whole other post on that someday, but just know that, yeah, like Ashley said, we're not alone with that, but also know that it doesn't have to stay that way.
And anyone
Ashley, I saw you give a little hand pump there.
Yeah, that was preach. Keep preaching. And that anyone who sleds also knows that the more you go down, that first time you may not go very far because of the deep snow. You might sink in. But the second, the third time, you keep going farther and farther and farther, making it more and more productive. And Kate, you went exactly where I was headed with resiliency. Just like meditation, just like with your yoga postures or any kind of habit that you're after, practice, practice, practice. And it gets easier and easier to do the desired behavior. And so same thing with that victim mode. We're all going to fall into that from time to time. We have hormones. Our body is so complex. Kate can tell you about the gut, everything else. And we're going to have those days. And that's okay. But hopefully with resiliency, we flex that muscle and we get stronger and stronger. And we keep making the desired behavior more and more frequently. And ultimately, just growing stronger out of the whole thing.
Yes. There's another great book. I don't actually have it out here, but there's a book called Resilience that I love. I thought I kept it out here, but I might not. It might be on my other shelf right now. But yeah, resiliency, kind of mental strength to deal with whatever life throws at you, basically, and to keep so many great quotes. I love the topic of resiliency, and I've got a guest coming on in the future. He's going to talk all about failure, just kind of putting that little thing out there. He's a Spartan runner, Spartan coach, and his passion topic is failure and why it's not always a bad thing. So I'm excited about that one. So it actually segues nicely. So I would love to hit Ashley, if you would share, knowing that this obviously is not a blanket statement for how everyone would do it, but can you walk us through your process for writing up your 2022 goals?
Sure can. So first of all, I try to consume consciously, and I found this notebook. It's a recycled notebook. But anyways, I found it 2 years ago now, and I wanted it real bad, and I had to have a purpose for it. I couldn't just buy it. So I was like, this is going to be my goal book. I'm going to start, writing down my goals for the year. Because again, I fall into the same category as other people. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I'll say those things, but if I don't write them down, I can't hold myself accountable. So started about 2 years ago writing. I actually start off in December because it starts to get that time of year. People get excited about Christmas, Kate. I get excited about it. My birthday falls
refreshing and refocusing.
Yes, no, it's so refreshing. My birthday falls right before New Year's, so it's like I get a new year of age, I get a new focus, I get like tabula rasa. I say all the time, the clean slate.
Yeah.
And so starting in December, as things start to come to my mind, I'll write them down on this list. So right now the list is like 2 columns long. It's getting kind of long, but it could be I want to drink a glass of tea every morning, or I want to write in my journal at least once a week, or I want to go to the Tulip Festival in Holland.
I love it. So, travel goals. That list is expensive.
It could be something so big. It could be on my bucket list, or it could be something so small that it would, it could be a 1-minute goal. And so I think everyone needs those quick wins. And then I think everyone needs those big milestones. It's just how our human nature works. But those things, and if you start to lose momentum for one, usually you'll gain it for another one. So in December, I'll start that list. And then this last week of December here, what I've been doing is reading it nightly. And I'll cross out ones that really don't resonate, where I'm not excited about it when I read it. And then I will maybe put a question mark next to ones that rely on other people. Like, I probably need to make sure my partner's okay with going to Europe. So
that'd be good.
I'll put a little conversation next to that one before I commit to it. And then, I'll maybe write out some new ones that come to mind. And my goal for this last week of the year is with a day or two left in the year with New Year's upon us, I will write out officially those goals. And I usually put them under a header. So if it's social wellness, if it's occupational wellness, if it's my environmental wellness, I'll put those under those categories so that I can see, like this year, my financial goals, I rocked those in like the first quarter. So I was really proud of myself, really great. But my social wellness wasn't doing so hot, with COVID, not traveling, not, being out with people. So I knew I had to put some more emphasis there. So that breaking them up into categories definitely helps too.
The categories. Now, have you ever used like that wellness wheel that I've seen, like the wedges where you rank it 1 to 10?
Yes.
You find that
I
helpful?
love that. I do feel like some people, especially self-improvement people out there, sometimes, you put 80% for that occupational wellness, and then you think that the next step is 85 and then 90 and then 95. And it doesn't always work that way. So with the wellness wheel, you're able to look at each area of your wellness and say what percent fulfilled you are with it. The problem is that things happen. The world doesn't stay stagnant. So Kate might have something happen in her occupational sector that drops it down to say 60%, but she might have her social wellness. She might have joined a club and made new friends, and that shoots up to 90%. So we have to be able to look at the wheel in a way that is constructive, to say, hey, I took some eggs out of this basket and I put them over here right now, and that's serving me, and I'm okay with that. Okay. Or we can say, hey, this area really got away from me. I need to put some focus in there. I need to put some eggs in there. Yeah. If we can look at it that way, it's constructive. But if we look at it in a way of, oh, I'm not self-improving. Oh, things are getting worse.
Going back to that mind talk. Yeah. As opposed to acknowledging like, okay, I honor that. There's a reason I'm not a failure because of that. Now on to the next step. Honor it. Yeah. Now, do you think it's important for people to, with the wellness wheel, for those of you, like there's a bunch of wedges and you sort of define them, each spoke on the tire, so to speak, or each spoke on the wheel, like, yeah, financial goals, relationship goals, fitness goals, health goals, like whatever, you can create those topics. Do you feel that people should address all of those when they're kind of, let's use this as a time to say we're kind of, let's say it's people reinventing themselves in general, just going, I want to take a clean look at my life. The world's been a little crazy the last few years. Let's kind of start fresh. Do you feel there are, obviously every person's going to be a little different, but do you feel it helps to hit some of those categories such as social, environmental, wellness, relationship, in order to better hit, a weight goal or a fitness goal or a career goal, where I think people sometimes don't consider the interlink between those.
The symbiosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, Kate, because while you have to be able to respect taking eggs from one basket and putting them into another, because you only have so much time, right? So, and so much energy. Ultimately, that's what we're measuring here.
Yes.
So yeah, and we talked about weight loss, that sometimes you start just being a better human. You start volunteering, you start meeting up with friends, you start being happier, and all of a sudden, the weight takes care of itself. So there's this magical formula inside of our bodies that all of these elements of our well-being feed each other. And so by, saying, hey, I'm ready, it's the new year. This is another mistake people make. It's new year, I'm all inspired. I'm going to change everything all at once.
Change it all.
I'm going to do it all. And that's great until it gets hard. And then we realize we're juggling 20 balls and one drop. Okay. Oh, and another one dropped. And then the trick is when we start beating ourselves up about the ones we dropped, we drop all of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So instead, know yourself. This goes back to that strengths finder, to knowing your strengths. If I know perseverance is my thing, I can take on one really hard task and I can dig and fight and I'm going to get there. And then I can take on the next task and I'm going to do the same thing. You have people who are multitaskers. They need to have 3 or 4 balls in the air at the same time. Well, that's cool, but maybe those aren't trips to Europe, maybe instead those are drink a glass of tea once a week.
And I love that you point out the kind of the juggling the balls and the eggs in the baskets, because I think people forget sometimes or don't realize completely that to choose one habit or like one thing for that day almost inevitably means you're going to be sacrificing something else.
Exactly.
Like you can't go home after work to relax if you need to go to the gym after work to do fitness. Like, yes, sometimes you can then, okay, I'll go take a hot bath afterwards. But other times it's, well, maybe I need to sacrifice X to take care of the kids. And I'd have people when I taught a 6 a.m. fitness class, I had a lot of people who would text like, I'm so sorry, I'm not coming in. I couldn't sleep last night. And I would tell them like, that's 100% fine. Like prioritize sleep. That's okay. Like don't,
basket.
yeah. Or people who would choose to go out for a social event rather than cooking dinner from home. And then they'd beat themselves up about, oh, I was supposed to do home cooked meals and all this. I'm like, it's okay to choose priority X over Y. And I guess
as long as you choose it.
As long as you choose it, be mindful of it, be honest with yourself. Maybe have a healthy thing when you go out, but if not, enjoy the social situation. Don't beat yourself up about it. And then don't also go, oh, well, shoot, I had pizza tonight and some beer. I might as well just eat out the rest of the week.
Ooh, so Kate, you just hit the all or nothing principle.
Yes, there's a lot of that people have.
So, and again, that's a cultural thing. We either are a marathoner or we're not a runner. We hate running. We're either, you know, the best at X or we don't do it at all. And so instead, how do we say that something is better than nothing? How do we say that just doing some crunches during a commercial is better than me sitting on the couch and watching an entire episode without moving? Like,
it's okay to have a baby step.
It's a baby step, and it is something in the right direction. And we talked about resiliency. The more times we make that little something baby step, the more steps we're going to take.
Love it. So if you could kind of sum all that up to people who are hoping to hop on the new year energy and kind of reset and refocus, what would you recommend?
Okay. First, are you a journaler, pencil, pen person? Are you a phone, type it into your phone? Or are you a commit to someone, tell someone, maybe on video or in person like this as an accountability? But figure out your realm of accountability. If you can keep yourself accountable, if you need someone else to keep you accountable, or maybe you need a whole group to keep you accountable, like joining a gym or, hiring a coach, whatever it is, figure out the level of accountability you're going to need. 1, 2, and that's knowing yourself.
True.
2, part of that knowing yourself maybe is taking a strengths test. So set aside 5 minutes for that. And then set a timer for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have, and give yourself the gift of quiet. Don't have it in the middle of the room where everyone's pulling at you in different directions. Sit down, quiet time, and you're worth it. Take 5 or 10 minutes and scratch down things that resonate with you. Things that you've always said, I should do this. I want to do this. In coaching, we say don't should on yourself. So instead of shoulding on yourself, you're going to actually do it. So sit down, make that list. And next, for this first month, let's focus on the first month of January. Maybe we don't focus on the whole year because that can be scary. Or maybe it's the first week for you. Figure out your timeline. Is it a week? Is it a month? Or is it a year? Something super easy. And circle at least one of those goals to complete. And also assess, is this a habit? Is this something I'm going to need to do daily? A lot of people will say, I want to eat more vegetables. Well, I can't say I want to eat more vegetables by the end of the month because I have no way to track that. But I will say, I want to eat one more vegetable at dinner 5 days a week. That's totally trackable. I can track that. So figure out your timeline, figure out the goal, and figure out how many checks, how are you going to track this? And then my favorite part, Figure out how you're going to celebrate once you do it. What is getting to that finish line going to give you? Honor that, own that, get motivated, inspired by that. This is your own success story. And then write it day by day. Get to that finish line and celebrate. And I challenge you, maybe it's not celebrating the food.
Please don't.
Maybe,
for most situations.
It is a peaceful night watching a movie with your partner. Maybe it is a new book that you've put off buying. Maybe it's doing something good for your community, volunteering, taking a half day of work. Maybe to go do something for yourself, like go to the spa or something else. But ultimately finding that way to celebrate. And then that reinforcement is going to help you get to your next step. So I hope that helps break down a very complex system.
I feel like we could do like a series on this sort of stuff, like step 1 and on. But
a whole worksheet. Yep, I get
whole worksheet. And there's so much to it. And I hope people don't feel discouraged by it, because we want to provide the tools, but you need to kind of pick which ones are the right ones for you.
Gotta be right for you.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, I tend to I do like a monthly theme sort of thing. Like, what is my focus this month? From a business standpoint, it's always like, what is the next step? Like December was, I want a podcast. So that was my focus in December.
Making it happen.
And it happened. Here I am on, this will be like episode 7, I think. So somewhere in there. So like that was my business goal. And like Ashley, I tend to set a business goal, kind of a health or fitness goal. Those are probably the 2 that I focus on. And then usually a personal goal, like I learned the ukulele. So a little fun goals. I think one of my final follow-up questions here, Ashley, what are 3 books or podcasts or resources that you would recommend to my audience, and why?
Okay. So first off, I was doing some app research the other day. And I noticed that the Daily Dozen does not have a ton of downloads. And I will tell you what the Daily Dozen is, and I can't believe more people don't use it. But through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, Dr. Greger and team have created the Daily Dozen app. It is literally just a checklist. I'm not a person who gets down to the nitty-gritty of the calorie and the macronutrient and everything else. I just want to be healthier. I want to eat more plants. I want to be more sustainable. I want to feel better. And so for me, this little checklist of going through, did I eat a serving of beans? Yes. Did I eat a serving of fruit? Yes. Did I drink a glass of water? Yes. And it's just a little quick checklist. So it takes seconds out of your day to fill out. But I love going back and saying, ooh, I got 20 of my checks today out of 24. Ooh, I really want to hit that 24. And then if you get going on that part of the checklist on the app, there's a second page where you can start focusing on habits. There's things on there like drinking green tea, or making sure that you are eating your meals during a duration, like 20 minutes or something like that. I think instead of scarfing down our food, being more mindful. There's a lot of different things, and everything on the app is peer reviewed. It all comes from peer reviewed research. And that's something that speaks to my geeky heart. Yes. So the Daily Dozen app. That's one thing. Let's see. Oh, a podcast. I love NPR's Hidden Brain. I'm also Freakonomics. I also love, and they have a Freakonomics MD now, which I also love. I love statistics and social behavior. But Hidden Brain is all about how people are people and what makes us tick and why do we do the things we do. And understanding that, being a student of your own body, I think is a great insight, not only to how you tick and function, but also you start to give other people empathy and grace for being the way they are. And that can help your relationships.
Yes.
Those are 2.
I like that.
Let me look at my bookshelf. One more thing, Kate.
Well, I have one I can throw out that I think we talked about, actually. Were you the one who introduced me to 16personalities.com? No, no.
Yep,
But we've
that's
talked about
another
it.
personality test.
Yeah. So some people do know themselves very well inside and out, but it's very interesting to see. So 16personalities.com, like 16personalities.com. It's the Myers-Briggs,
Yep.
but it seems to go a lot deeper. It's a little more intensive in the questionnaire, but it's been really fun sharing that with other people. I use it as a coach to help understand like what are their strengths and weaknesses and how to best kind of coach them and help guide them. But the number of people come back going like, it was so nice to have this abstract feeling that I feel put into words that I can use to explain myself or to help explain to like loved ones why something is how it is or why I'm reacting the way I am. And to then see those strengths, to like the strength finder that Ashley mentioned, you know, to lean on those strengths or to look at the weaknesses and go, which ones do I want to work on, if any? So that was another resource that I really liked for understanding ourselves. But
Awesome.
so I was thinking that.
And then I would say last thing, anything that helps us be more environmentally responsible. So whether that's reading a book this next year, whether that is reducing your consumption, whether that's eating some vegetarian meals, or I switched to the soap, shampoo, and conditioner bar for my hair.
Oh yeah.
That made a huge difference. I feel better every time I take showers. So
there you go.
Hopefully you can find something to just be a kinder steward of the planet this next year. Those would be the resources I would throw out there.
I love it. Any last things that you'd like to recap or add in here? Or any, like if you have a free handout or if you're doing, I don't know, if you're taking on clients at this point, or have promos, anything you want to share about what you're doing and what exciting things are coming up in your life?
Well, I've been pretty preoccupied with the learning curve in my new career path.
Got a lot going on.
But the whole idea of creating coaching programs, helping coaches to be their best selves so that they can bring that to their members. I've been taking on a couple of coaching clients. So if that's something you're interested, feel free to reach out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just want, there's a lot of science behind behavior change, and there's a lot going on there, but ultimately you got to find what resonates with you. You know, dig through everything, spend that 5-10 minutes, set a timer if you need to. But ultimately figure out what resonates with you, what speaks to you, your path, your heart. And that's ultimately what's going to work for you. So instead of falling into someone else's mold, create your own. And I wish everyone a healthy and happy 2022.
Absolutely. So then before we go, if people do want to reach out to you or connect or learn more, how can people get a hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Ashley Tryban, Tryban. And I'll give you my email if you want to put it in the show notes.
And put it all in the notes. All right. And you're still posting on your LinkedIn, right? Some like good wellness videos and things.
Yeah, I haven't been. I wanted to put something on there about goal setting because this is my jam. This is my time of year. But yeah, mostly just promoting other people. Say, that idea of abundance, that there's just some really great professionals out there doing great things. Hopefully all the good feels when you come to my LinkedIn page.
I love it. You're a good resource then. Good networking. sharing what's out there, because there is so much that's out there. So I love that. So, well, thank you so much, Ashley. And I will put your information in the show notes and we will wrap it up. So have a wonderful rest of the holiday season and good luck in your new year.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate.
Well, everybody, I hope you are as inspired and motivated by that as I am. I am a bit of a big, ambitious goal setter at times. So for me, that is totally in my wheelhouse, probably why Ashley and I kind of resonated with each other. But just, I want to share with you the reminder that it doesn't have to be huge goals, tons of goals. like anything, it takes practice, but the more you set goals that you meet, it really does actually do things in the brain, like dopamine chemical receptors, to help you become stronger in this skill set of setting goals and meeting them. So we're going to try to add a couple links, a worksheet to help you guide through that. There's a little bit of bonus content I will link. It's on my website. Ashley and I chatted a little bit afterwards, and she was showing me her goal setting. And I shared mine. There's some morning routine discussions. So hop on that link to dublindietitian.com with the hyperlink for sort of bonus video content and bonus resources. And otherwise, reach out. If you need some help writing goals, ask on Facebook, email me, something. Sometimes it just needs a little kickstart to figure out the right way to set it up and frame it, and then you're good to go. Or if you need coaching and you need accountability, there's no shame in that. If you want to hit your goals, get the resources, get the support, get the tools that you need. You can make this happen. Whether you're listening to this here at the beginning of the year or you stumbled across this episode later in the year, it doesn't matter. You can set goals, you can meet them, you can achieve them, you can live your best life. So take care, have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.